Human perception is not continuous. It's assembled in discrete stages that occur faster than conscious awareness can track. What you experience as a seamless stream of reality is actually the output of multiple subsystems operating in parallel, each optimizing for speed, coherence, and energy conservation rather than accuracy. The first of these subsystems isn't thought, it's prioritization. Incoming sensory information is immediately filtered for relevance before it reaches conscious processing. This filtering is automatic and biased. It's shaped by learned significance, prior outcomes, and statistical probability derived from past exposure. Your awareness doesn't receive the world. It receives a curated selection. What feels like interpretation is already downstream of this process. By the time meaning appears, the system has already decided which variables matter. Everything else has been suppressed. This suppression isn't conscious and it's not emotional. It's computational. The brain can't process everything at once, so it assigns weight and discards the rest. What you later describe as insight or reaction is built on top of this weighing process. Most people never notice this layer because it's efficient. It produces stable experience. Stability feels like truth. The second stage is model activation. Once certain data points are selected, the brain activates the closest matching internal model. These models aren't memories in narrative form. They're probabilistic structures. They encode expectations about cause and effect, likely outcomes, and appropriate responses. When a model activates, it shapes perception before reasoning begins. That's why two people can encounter identical information and reach incompatible conclusions without either feeling confused. They're not disagreeing about facts, they're operating from different activated models. Model activation feels neutral. It doesn't announce itself. It feels like how things are. Confidence often accompanies this stage, not because the model is accurate, but because it's familiar. And that reduces cognitive load. And reduced load is experienced as clarity. This is where error becomes invisible. The third stage is narrative compression. Once a model is active, the brain generates a coherent explanation that allows the individual to move forward. This explanation is what most people identify as their thought. But it's not the source, it's the summary. If you intervene at the level of this narrative, you're already late. The architecture has done its work. Advanced cognition doesn't mean having better narratives. It means being able to detect which model has been activated and why. It means recognizing when selection bias has narrowed the field too early. It means noticing when certainty is being generated by efficiency rather than evidence. This capacity changes how the brain uses time. Instead of reacting to conclusions, attention shifts towards the formation process. That shift doesn't feel emotional, it feels analytical. It reduces urgency. Urgency is often a signal that the system is protecting an existing model from revision. From a neurological perspective, this corresponds to an increased tolerance for prediction error. The brain is allowed to remain uncertain slightly longer. That delay creates access to alternative models before one locks in. It's not indecision, it's higher resolution processing. People who develop this capacity don't become passive, they become precise. They speak less because they need less narrative reinforcement. They change direction earlier because they recognize trajectory before outcome. They're harder to manipulate because surface-level stimuli no longer override internal model awareness. At this level, perception stops being something that happens to you and becomes something you can examine without disengaging from reality. Not emotionally detached, structurally informed. The key realization isn't philosophical, it's mechanical. Your experience is the result of a system optimizing for coherence under constraint. Once you see that system, you stop mistaking its output for ground truth. You treat it as a draft. That recognition doesn't require belief. It does not require agreement. It only requires observation. And once observation reaches the level of mechanism, the system can't return to invisibility. Most people think that their problem is that they don't know what to do. It's not. Their problem is that their brain keeps presenting the same limited menu of interpretations and calling it reality. Once you understand that, you stop wasting energy trying to fix outcomes and start questioning the system that generates them. Power doesn't come from choosing better answers. It comes from expanding the range of questions your mind is capable of asking. Your thoughts feel personal because they happen inside you, but they're not handcrafted. They're assembled. They follow rules. They use templates. They recycle patterns that worked before, whether or not they're appropriate now. Once you see this, self-criticism loses its grip. You stop identifying with every conclusion your mind produces and start evaluating whether the system that produced it deserves authority. The most dangerous beliefs aren't false beliefs. They're incomplete models that feel finished. A closed model can't learn. A closed model can't adapt. Confusion, intensity, reactivity, and internal conflict all lose their power when you recognize them as a system behavior rather than a personal failure. You stop asking what's wrong with you when you start asking which internal process is currently running unchecked. That shift replaces shame with strategy. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to understand which mechanism is driving the output. Once you see that perception is constructed, not delivered, you can't fully surrender your agency again. Even when old habits run, something in you knows better. You know when certainty is premature. You know when urgency is artificial. You know when a conclusion is familiar rather than true. That knowledge doesn't make life easier, it makes it cleaner. And clean perception is power.